guests who have joined us from all over the world. Welcome to TLI series session number 7, an evening that promises to be as enlightening as it is empowering. We are gathered not just as Toastmasters, but as storytellers in process. Each of us are chasing that perfect line, perfect pause, and perfect connection. And tonight, we get to learn from someone who has mastered all three. Before we roll into this power packed session, a quick note for everyone. There will be a Q&A session after the keynote, and our guest speaker has kindly consented to clarify all the doubts you may have. So please drop in your questions in the chat box as they come to you, and we'll take them up during the Q&A session. Now, let's officially get started and dive into the magic ahead. This evening is special because we are not just learning how to write a speech. We are learning how to craft a winning one. Our session, 4 steps to write a winning speech, will help us decode what makes the difference between good speech and a great one. We gather today not just as Toastmasters, but as torch bearers of words, wit, and wisdom. This evening, we dive into the mind of a world champion, someone who knows that a great speech is not just written, it's crafted, it's chiseled, it's lived. Or as they say in Afrikaans, Woorde het kraag. If I'm right in pronouncing, words have power. And you are about to discover just how powerful they can be. Now, before I bring our distinguished speaker, let me give you a quick sneak peek in what's in store beyond tonight's session. Let me just share something right now. You all can see this? Today, I am going to give you a small homework before we start the session. After the session,
and then,
you have to
as
go
you
and
rightly
just
pointed out yesterday, we're getting these awards or the announcement of these awards on District 105 website. And
yes, there is someone who is awarding someone. You can give it afterwards or mute yourself, please. You can join this wonderful web page, or you can also buy this ebook. This is a wonderful ebook which will give you some mantras about presenting with power. Or you can also, if you're eyeing for a podium finish this contest, please do this conquering contest here in the 25 module video online workshop. You learn how to be there, and you can also become a friend with Verity Price on her Insta handle. So, dear friends, I hope you have taken a note of all this, and you are going to subscribe to all these pages and to learn more about our next speaker. Let me just stop that share. Okay. Now let me just introduce our speaker. Our speaker tonight just doesn't speak. She sings her words into stories. She's a professional speaker, writer, creativity catalyst who made history by becoming the first woman from Africa to win the World Championship of Public Speaking. After becoming the champion in 2021, she earned her accredited speaker designation in 2023. Since then, DTM Verity Price embarked on a deep dive into anatomy of winning speeches. Now, have you ever wondered how world champions seems to tick all the right boxes for judges? Well, today is our lucky day. In today's masterclass, DTM Verity will share 4 vital steps to crafting a speech that simply dazzle, also delight the audience. When she speaks, the audience doesn't just listen, they lean in. Toastmasters, it is an honor to welcome someone whose journey from stage to stardom inspired all of us. So please join me in welcoming the one and only world champion of public speaking, DTM Verity Price. The virtual stage
Oh,
is
wow.
yours, ma'am.
Oh, Harish, thank you. Wow, what an incredible introduction. I can officially say your Afrikaans is better than mine. So that was a delightful surprise. And just thank you for your beautiful words. I feel so welcome, District 105. It is so wonderful to be here with you to spend this time deep diving into how do you write winning speeches. So it's going to be, I'm going to give you a lot this evening. I'm going to show you examples of other world champions and how I've seen the same threads across winning speeches. I might not have the world champions that's your favorite in my videos. It's just because I had a few and I had to edit them. So it's not favorites, it's just the videos I had. But I want this to be a learning journey, and I will be available to answer all your questions at the end. So are we ready to get started? Let me just see some virtual energy. Are we ready to make this happen? Fabulous. All right, so let's deep dive into the 4 steps to writing a winning speech. And I'm going to start straight off the bat by asking you a question. And that is, in the chat, just tell me, if we had to narrow it down to one thing that you need in order to win a contest at any level, from club all the way to the world championships, what would you say is the one thing a speaker needs to win a contest? I see it's popping in here. So I'm confidence, connection, keep them coming. Content, so good content, absolutely. A message, absolutely. Relatability, 100%. What else? Engage with the audience, participation, focused mindset. I love that. Content, absolutely. Just keep them coming. Anything. If we had to narrow it down to one thing, your preparation. Like everything we're saying here is what we should be doing for great speeches. Delivery, energy, giving you a chance to send me 1 or 2 more things. Authenticity, relatability. Probably starting to see a beautiful picture appearing here. Practice, preparation, practice. Voice variety, absolutely. Again, that energy, effective delivery. All right. Belief in self, presence. You're starting to realize why people find contests quite scary. There's a lot of things you need. You need to be there. So, Andy, you are the closest. Because if I had to take it down to everything you need to win a contest, the first thing you have to have that you need is to enter. You will only win a contest if you enter the contest. If you don't enter, you cannot win. And I know this because there's been many years when I didn't enter the contest. And I want to share with you what I really believe, and it's come through in your answers already. In a contest, there are 2 things that you have to have. So you need to enter, but you have to have the right mindset and you have to have the right speech. You can't have the wrong speech and the right mindset. You can't have the wrong mindset at the right speech. They both have to be right. And I know that because that was my journey with contests. I entered my first contest in 2012. I'd been a member of Toastmasters for a year. I was already a confident speaker. I was a professional speaker. So when they said we're having a contest, I thought, that'll be easy. I'll do it, no problem. And it was a bit of a lazy mindset and a bit of an arrogant mindset, if I'm honest. My sister, Kay, who is 12 years older than me and had joined Toastmasters to overcome her fear of public speaking, she entered with a curious and courageous mindset. Let's say that. She said, I'll try that. That sounds scary. And as a result, Kay worked on her speech for the club contest for a month. She practiced, she wrote it, she rewrote it, she over-prepared in my mind. And in my arrogant mindset, I worked on my speech the night before. I practiced it in front of my mirror once, and I wandered into the club on contest night thinking, I've got this. You're probably getting a sense of where my story is going. Kay beat me. She beat me. And that was when I discovered that I hadn't entered a little Toastmasters contest at my home club. We'd entered the international speech contest. And I had to watch my sister, who was terrified of public speaking, go all the way to becoming our district champion. She was the third woman in 56 years to ever win that trophy. And then I had to sit at the back of the room and watch her go all the way to the world semi-finals, where she came second. For the first time in her journey, she came second. And that was the 2011 world champion handing her her trophy. The man who beat her, Ryan Avery, 2 days later became the 2012 world champion. So it was extraordinary watching Kay compete with the right speech and the right mindset. She put in effort, she put in energy, she put in time, she worked with mentors, she asked for feedback, she worked with an anxiety coach. She was so nervous of being on the stage, and she stretched herself, and it took her all the way to the world semifinals. Now, you would think, having watched that, I would have been inspired to enter the contest again, but I thought, no, this is a lot of work. So I didn't enter in 2013. I didn't enter in 2014. 2015, I entered again. I said, right, I'm ready to do this. And I entered, I worked a lot harder. So I had a good mindset. I had a great speech, and I gave it my all. And I got as far as division, where I came third. Now you'll see I'm smiling in that picture. I was not happy. My ego was horrified. I'm a professional speaker. I can't win a Toastmasters contest. What's going on? And quite honestly, if it had been left up to me, that's where my journey with contests would have ended, because my mindset was so afraid of failure that I just didn't bother trying. I leaned into leadership. I mentored other speakers for contests, but I never entered again. So how on earth am I here talking to you as a world champion? Well, I left Toastmasters in 2019 to become a mom. And someone is not muted. I left Toastmasters to become a mom, and I really thought that my journey with this wonderful organization had come to an end. But then COVID hit and life changed. We had to go online. We had to work out how to work on Zoom. And I rejoined Toastmasters for community. And I'm sure a lot of you, anyone who was a member during COVID, will remember how much community this gave us, meeting on Zoom, connecting, sharing our speeches. And it was a lifeline for me. And it was in 2020 that I watched the World Championships online, and Mike Carr became our first ever virtual world champion. Now, if you haven't seen his speech, go and watch it. And if you have, you'll know why it meant so much to me. And it was the message. The message was, the victory is not in the result. The victory is in the try. The victory is not in the result. The victory is in the try. And I really heard him across the miles. And I thought, Verity, you're not even trying in this contest. And so that was when I decided to enter in 2021. My mindset was ready for the hard work, the stretch, the challenge, the effort that Kay had put in. I wanted to do that. And I also had a speech that I believed could go the distance. It was the story of my mum teaching me growing up that we should all try to leave the world better than we find it. And I wanted to give it my all. So I started working on that speech 3 months before the club contest, not the night before. I did it at district open houses. I was getting feedback, and I started competing with the intention and the hope that I could take a speech from Africa to the world finals. And it was the hardest thing I have ever done. It was completely in lockdown. I had an 18-month-old baby who would wander in while I was rehearsing. I'm sure those of you that might have competed in virtual contests know how you turn your home upside down to make it work. But I gave it my all. And in May, I heard that I'd won district. And now I was faced with a choice. Because when you win district, there's 6 weeks before you hear if you're going to make the semifinals. And if you make the semifinals, I think most of you will know this, you need a second speech if you make the finals. So here's my question to you. Do you wait to hear if you've made the semifinals to think of a second speech? Or do you start looking for a second speech just in case? So do you wait or do you start? Those are my two options. Do you wait to hear or do you start working on a speech? Which one would you choose? I see Nicolette saying start with lots of exclamation points. Start, 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 start. Yes, I'm so glad you know this. What's frightening is how many years, every year you'll hear someone in the finals who will tell you they were writing their speech after they won the semi-final. Can give me a heart attack. But I started working on my speech 2 days after winning district, just in case. And I wasn't sure what I should write about. What do you say if you get to the world finals? And then it got easy. I thought, you know what? I'm not going to one day meet my father in heaven and have to hear from him, why did you only write a speech about your mother? Where was my speech? And so I started looking for stories about my father, of how he'd shaped me and changed me. And I wrote the speech that ultimately became a great read, which I delivered in the finals. But now I was still waiting. I was just working on both speeches as if I got the news I'd made the semis. I delivered my mom's speech. And then I had to wait till 3:00 in the morning in August to see if I'd made the finals. And we woke up to this news, which was unbelievable. I was the last woman left standing and the only speaker from Africa. So the pressure was on. Oh, I love that. Someone's giving me a heart. That's so cool. I haven't seen that before. It was a huge moment. And from when they announced this at 3:00 in the morning, we had to be ready to record at 3:00 the next afternoon. So thank goodness I'd done the work, the energy. My sister was so excited. She picked me up to go and record. We were recording at my parents-in-law's because they had good Wi-Fi. And she was blasting Waka Waka by Shakira, It's Time for Africa. I was getting messages from across the continent saying, please, please, please win this trophy for Africa. So there was a lot of pressure. And you all know how the story ends, but I wanted to quickly show you because it was quite a special moment on the day of the finals. It was the first time in 7 months that I was able to have people to watch with because we'd pre-recorded. And we had people together at the waterfront in Cape Town under the shadow of Table Mountain, and they brought their South African flags. And if you ever watch the 2010 FIFA World Cup, we've got this awful thing called a vuvuzela that's very noisy. The South Africans were there. And this was the moment when we heard what had happened.
The first place winner and the 2021 World Champion of Public Speaking is Verity Price.
It was a big moment. You can see we were excited. And that's Kay dancing with me, really celebrating. But this is a life-changing moment for any speaker in Toastmasters. And I'll never forget the joy of receiving my trophy, which I unwrapped in my bedroom because we were still kind of in lockdown. And just thinking, oh my word, not only has this changed my life personally and professionally, But it also, in my mind, broke the ceiling for Africa, because the very next year, Cyril Jr. Dim is from Zimbabwe, my home country. So now there's more of us, which is amazing. But here's the thing about speaking and about contests. If you enter, it doesn't matter how amazing your mindset is, it doesn't matter how incredible your speech is, every year at the end of this contest, only one person is guaranteed to grow. And that's often why people go, oh, why bother? How am I going to become a world champion? And you can't enter it for the result. It's the journey that shapes us. And this is what I realized after I won. Yes, I was lucky to win, but the true trophy I got was the growth that I received competing. Because in a contest, one person is guaranteed to win, but everyone else is guaranteed to grow. And so for me, everything I'm teaching today is around how do you choose that growth for yourself? Because we can't guarantee the outcome, but we can guarantee the growth. Okay, so are you ready for the growth? I'm hoping you are, because this is the gift you give yourself when it comes to presenting and to speaking. So who here enjoys getting and receiving gifts? Let's just see in the chat again. I like it to be interactive, or you can just unmute and say me. But who enjoys giving or receiving gifts? I'm seeing, yes, me, lots of people.
Giving.
And I always, sorry? Just saying me. Awesome. Okay, we all like getting gifts. It's kind of a universal love language, gift giving and receiving. And this is something I realized after I won, when districts were saying, Verity, come teach us about what you've learned about, what makes a winning speech and what makes the difference. And it suddenly hit me that I've been in this world of presenting for years, but I've never thought about the word presenting. It has the word present in it, which is to give. And I realized that really powerful speeches are speeches that give a gift to the audience. That ultimately, it's a gift you're giving to your audience. Your speech needs to have a message in it that they want to take home. They want to do something with it. They're changed, they're moved, because otherwise, why did we give it? And so when you start thinking about your speech, and for a speech contest, this is very important. What am I giving the audience? What experience am I giving them? What change of heart or mind am I giving them? And am I giving it in a way that they will want to receive and that they can actually do something with it when I've finished? And so that's what we're going to be unwrapping today. How do we turn our speeches into a gift for our audience? Now, I know there's a lot of people here who love gifts, but there are choices in how you give a gift to someone. You could give it like that. And if our cameras were on, I think I'd probably see a few faces going, no, I'm not so sure if I want it like that. But, there could be a gift in that. Who knows? Or you could give it like this. So again, if you had to choose right now, which one would you want? The bag or the box? So just again, pop that in the chat. If you had to choose in an instant, which one do you want? Bag or the box? Okay, so we've got box. Someone wants the bag, so that's good. Box, box, box. The box generally wins. Why is the box winning? What is it about the box or the boxes? I know there's two there. What is it about the boxes that makes you want them? It's the packaging. It looks good. Yes, it does, most of them. The effort, the presentation, the structure. It's presentable, good presentation. Okay. So what you're seeing is how quickly as an audience we decide. It holds surprise and creates eagerness. Yes, there's something inside. I love that. That's how quickly the audience decides if you're going to give them something valuable or not. If they're interested and curious and going, oh, I wonder what's inside, and that you've taken care. So from the way we dress to how we come across, people are deciding very quickly if they should listen to us. What this shows me is that there are three things that you need to create when you are speaking to an audience, and especially in the World Championships. And this is when I'm going to start showing you examples of some previous world champions to show you how these things are created in every single winning speech we see. So the three emotions you want to create, the first one is what the box did for you. is it makes you curious. Curiosity is a superpower in speaking. You want to create curiosity early and often throughout your speech. So from as early as your title, you want to create curiosity. This year's world champion, Just Nod. Oh, where's this going? This sounds interesting. We're listening. Last year, 37 strangers. The year before, Have You Been There? Indini, mine, a great read. Start looking at world champion titles and finalist titles and see the ones that create that curiosity, because it means from the minute the contest chair is announcing the speech, people are sitting up and going, do I want to unwrap this? Okay, so curiosity is key. And we create curiosity with our title, with throwing the audience into a story where they don't know what's going to happen, or when we pause and then we carry on, or we say, you'll never believe what happened next. And again, a pause. Any moments like that throughout a speech create curiosity. But great speeches generally created early and often. I mean, this year, Sabi sat down on the floor and kissed it and kissed the stage. The audience was curious instantly. Okay, so that's the first emotion you want to create. And we'll look at some examples shortly. Second emotion you want to create is connection. The audience needs to see themselves in your story, in the scenario or the scene that you're painting. Because unless they can see themselves in it, they're not going to connect with you. And so this is why winning speeches generally, I could actually say always, speak about universal themes, whether it's fear or love or rejection or acceptance or overcoming an obstacle or an issue with parents, anything that anyone from anywhere can go, oh, I know that. I felt that frustration before, or, oh, yes, I find that funny. That's where we create connection. And so it's very important that you find moments in your speech that the audience can see themselves in. And again, I'm going to show you some examples of how world champions create this connection, instant, universal connection with an audience from anywhere and anyone. Okay, so those two emotions, if you create these well, and this is your storytelling, the way you keep them on the edge of their seat, your energy, all of that is creating curiosity and connection. But that leads to the third thing you want by the end of your speech, and that is commitment. Commitment to your message. Yes, I'm going to do more of that, or, oh, I'm going to stop doing that. Whatever your speech was about, have you got the commitment when you finish speaking? Okay, so I'm going to show you curiosity and connection, and then we'll come back to commitment a little bit later. I'm just hoping, just seeing Ashwani, I can see your camera. So if you can give me a thumbs up that you can hear the sound when it starts, that will be amazing. And let's have a look at how some previous world champions have created curiosity.
The ultimate question. That question that has plagued man since the dawn of time. And that question that each and every one of us must ask at some point in our life. Do you validate?
The steering wheel jerked. I tried to keep the car in control. That night in Chicago, a flat tire changed me. What?
You and I are not very different from this flower. Just like this flower is unique, you are unique.
I was spellbound as I watched the sheriff who had just been shot slide back, open that heavy metal door, stagger forward a couple of steps, look deep into the camera and say, I before E, except after C.
I had dragged myself to the shops just to get more ice cream, thinking no one I know is going to be there. But there she was.
I say, I do want to get more examples because you can see it in all the World Championship speeches. But could you see how each of those speakers, in their very different ways, created that sense of curiosity, that interest, and anticipation in where their speech was taking you? I see Sakti saying yes. Is there some thumbs up? Could you feel the curiosity and see how important it is that you create that early in your speech? You don't want to waste your introduction on long examples. You need to draw them in and make them sit up and listen. Okay, fabulous. So now let's look at how they create connection, how they allow you as the audience member to see yourself in their situation or in the picture they're painting. And again, you'll see, I mean, the examples I'm using, we're from all over the world, and it's how do they use personal stories to create connection. So let's have a look at that.
I had a job I didn't like. I hadn't had a date in 3 years. And I had a couple of roommates named Mom and Dad. I felt like my life was going nowhere. So I took control. I left my home and my family, and I headed to Los Angeles to start over. 6 months later, I had a job I didn't like. I was dating a girl who was trying to make me better by pointing out all of my faults. And I had a couple of roommates that made Dumb and Dumber look like Einstein and Oppenheimer.
Why do flat tires always happen when you're dressed up? Opened the trunk, excavated the jack, unused for centuries.
I have a son who's 4, and he had this bad habit of writing on the walls with crayons. And one evening I walked into his room and he's going at it, just writing and drawing and so on, and I said, hey. Are you stupid? Don't you ever do that again. And guess what happened? He did it again. Nobody likes to be threatened. Nobody likes to be intimidated. His pride would not allow it. He did it again just to spite me. A week later, I walked into his room, and again, he's going at it. And this time, he was even looking at me just...
Now, I wasn't afraid of the cops, but there was one person I was very afraid of, and that was my mama. Raise your hand if you have an emotional mother. Let me see. Put them all together, you get mama.
But I still had to tell my parents. When I got home, I snuck in, and I thought, if I just hide in my closet, they'll forget I exist. But then I heard from the kitchen, Mike, come in. I walked in, and I said, Mom, Dad, there's something I have to tell you. I love you, and I am scared of sheriffs. I don't know. I ran to my room. I choked. I couldn't think of anything to say. I thought I'll tell them tomorrow.
When I was a little girl, I used to love snuggling on my dad's lap while he read me fairy tales. Not surprisingly, I grew up wanting the fairy tale.
All right. So just let me move that. So looking at those, could you feel connected to each of those scenarios? You could connect with them, you could relate to them, even if you haven't had the exact situation, like the 4-year-old drawing on the wall. We all know that situation. In fact, most of us probably were that child, but it's how quickly we can create connection with an audience. So you want to look at the way you're writing your speeches and go, can anyone from anywhere see themselves in these little scenes and scenarios? Will they be able to relate? And that came up a lot earlier, relatability. All right, so let's start now deep diving into how do we make sure that our speech is a gift for our audience. And these are the 4 steps to writing a winning speech. And all you're going to have to remember is the word gift, G-I-F-T. That's all you're going to have to remember. But before we go into that, I think let's take a little look at how the judges are looking at your gift, because it's all very well to write the best speech that you're absolutely thrilled with. But if you're not aware of the judging ballot, it can mean that you might be emphasizing the wrong things, and then on the day you won't score according to the judging ballot. So I just want to unpack this briefly because I sometimes see some confusion around this. The judging ballot is broken into 3 parts, and the part that carries the most weight is content, 50%. Here they're looking at your speech development, your structure, but of that 50%, 25% now is value to audience. And that's why the speech can't be valuable for you. It's a gift for them. Is this valuable? Is it original? Is it going to change the way they think? And that's what good judges are looking at and paying attention to. So this is where you want to spend a lot of your time as you craft your speech. And coupled with that is the fact that 20% of the marks goes to the language you use. So we're now looking at 70% is your content. And again, that came up a lot in the chat earlier. 70% of the mark is on your content, the language you use. Do you use alliterations, similes, vivid pictures, painting pictures with your words? Is it easy for people to see what you're saying? Is it appropriate to your speech? But this is where you want to spend most of your time when you are working on a speech. Because if you get this right, then the 30% that is delivery, voice, body, manner, that actually should come quite easily if you are delivering a beautifully written speech that is wonderfully structured, that is taking the audience on a journey, that is connecting with their hearts, that is using language to create pictures in their mind. I find that the better the content and the structure, often the better the delivery. Okay, so please bear that in mind, because I often see people thinking that vocal variety and body language is what wins a speech contest, and it should never be, because it's only 20% of the mark. Okay, just checking, is everyone still with me? Are we alive, awake, alert, enthusiastic? We good with the pace? Okay, fabulous. All right, so let's get into the 4 steps that are really going to help you with the content and the language part of your speech writing. So the G of the gift stands for get clear on your message. This is the most important part of working on a speech. It's not always easy to get here, but ideally a great message is 10 words or less. It's easy to say, easy to repeat, easy to remember. It should roll off your tongue rhythmically. It can have a sense of rhyme if necessary, or repetition, so that you can say it a few times in your speech in different ways in order for it to land with the audience. And we've seen beautiful messages over the years. Some of them as short as 1 word, validate. The message of Lance Miller's speech in 2005 was validate, or as a question, do you validate? But it was a very clear instruction. It was actionable. Prez Vasilev, reach out, 2 words, not a game-changing, life-changing idea, but beautifully delivered. Reach out. Words have power, 3 words. But if you listen to Muhammad Khatami's speech, you'll see he says it many times in many different ways. Mike Carr, who inspired me to enter, the victory is not in the result, the victory is in the try. So using repetition of the word victory to create a clear, powerful message that his entire speech was written around. Not always easy to get to this. My semifinals was easy. My mom taught me, leave the world better than you find it. It's an easy to say, easy to repeat message. I didn't ever have to work on that. My dad's speech, my final speech, his letter that he wrote me, for those of you that have seen my speech, it's all about a letter he wrote me. He had a long message in it. And it was around working on an attitude of gratitude, polishing your goals, look for the good, change the way you look at things. It was too much for the audience in my early versions. I had to keep coming back. How do I say this in a sentence? And eventually I got to your life as a book. if you're not enjoying the read. And the message was, pick up your pen and write a different story. So look at the speeches you're writing and going, do I have a clear, I call them sticky statements, a clear sticky statement that my story is revealing? Because the message normally comes at the height of the conflict of your speech, and then you show how this message has helped to change things. So this is your first stage, and I'm going to show you some world champions to see how their message statements are clear and see how they repeat them. So let's have a look.
She took her little machine and she went, cha-chink. And then as she handed it back, she looked at me and she said, there's something special about you. I took the ticket and headed for the elevator. But I stopped. And I turned around and just said, thank you. I don't know how long it had been since I'd felt validated. Her words stayed with me all the way home. And as I was looking at my life, I started to wonder how long it had been since I'd validated somebody else. I wanted to do that. I wanted to make people feel good. Every person goes through life wanting to be right, wanting to be valuable. Find that. Bring it out in them. I started to discover in my life that I got what I validated.
Then another voice. Reach out. Reach out. I can handle it. I used to believe that to reach out was weakness. I discovered my weakness was refusing to reach out. When you reach out, you attract ideas that lift you up. When you reach out, you attract solutions that lift you up. When you reach out, you attract friendships that lift you up.
Words, when said and articulated in the right way, can change someone's mind. They can alter someone's belief. Words have power. Words are power. Words could be your power. You can change a life, inspire a nation, and make this world a beautiful place.
Montgomery put her arm around me and she said, "It's okay that you took the risk to try to fix it. The victory is not in the result. The victory is in the try. My failure had not killed me. And yours will not kill you." What was it that Mrs. Montgomery said? The victory is not in the result. The victory is in the try.
Verity, your life is a book. And if you're not enjoying the read, write a different story. And then watch for a miracle, because I'm watching too. I shout at miracles, Dad, and how? How do I write a different story about this? To prove my point, I went to Facebook. And you guessed it, there were no stories of miserable 40-year-olds living in spare rooms. But the letter just lay there. It was like it was looking at me, almost whispering, write a different story.
Right, I will move that video along. So you can see there how each one of them in their different ways are very clear on the message that their speech is giving to the audience. The message is actually what they take home. They're not going to remember your whole speech, but that one line and the way they're saying it in different ways, with conviction, with passion, with purpose, that's what moves the audience. So this is your first step. And often you're going to do this by getting people to help you find and uncover that message and then say it in a way that adds to the value you're giving to your audience. So that's the first step. The second step, the eye of the gift, is to intentionally craft your story to reveal that message. And this is the hardest part of any speech writing. How do you take a lived experience and take out all the unnecessary details and only give the audience the juicy bits? because you have to leave out the details that don't advance your message. Sometimes you have to skip over time periods because you want to make it easy and accessible for the audience. Prez Vazilev, the 2013 world champion, he says you want to have a unity of action, a unity of space, and a unity of time. The easiest to connect with stories all happen in the same place at the same time with one thing happening. Of course, we can tell stories that are across different timelines, but often one space where the audience is just with you and they know what's happening can be a really easy way to keep them engaged in the story. If you're up for it and you want to do separate stories, it can work, but as long as there's always a unity of action, that each story you choose supports that one message that you are giving your audience. And please, the other thing I want to say to you, please don't ever put your message as your title. It kills the curiosity. You want to reveal the message. All right, so I want to show you a very simple structure for storytelling, and there's so many, but the reason I'm showing you this one is it occurred to me the whole reason we give a speech is for our audience to take our message home. And how do we use story to help them take the message home? And this is just the hero's journey. But in the start of your speech, you want to let us know who is the hero of your speech. And for International Speech Contest, it needs to be your story. Don't tell someone else's story. But who are you? Where are you? When is it happening? So throw the audience into the setting of your speech. Let them get a sense of your character up front. In my final speech, I was telling people I loved my dad. I wanted fairy tales. I wanted a perfect life. And now I was 40 and miserable. I very quickly let them get to know who I was, where I was, and when I was. So establish that quickly, and then understand the story becomes interesting when you introduce the obstacle. What is the problem that the hero is butting up against? What is making your life difficult? This year's world champion, trying to keep his dad happy. I want to be a Bollywood actor, but I think I better go into finance to keep my dad happy. And he kept us on the edge of our seats with the conflict of what's he going to do, isn't he? Then he tried acting and it didn't work. That's what makes it an engaging speech. So you want to escalate the tension. Again, leave out the unnecessary details. Use repetition, clever plays on words to keep the audience listening, curious, and connected. So we're building the tension, and at the height of the tension, in most stories, a mentor steps forward, and it's someone or something that helps you to overcome the problem. Now, the mentor can be a voice inside your head. If you don't have an external mentor, you can just say, a little voice said to me, da, da, da. But please never be the mentor, never be the guru of your own speech. It disconnects the audience from you. They want to know that you're similar to them, not separate from them. So this is very important that you look at the speech and you go, in this story, who or what helped me overcome the obstacle? The one speech, it was a flat tire, was the mentor. A receptionist giving a compliment was the mentor. My dad's letter was the mentor. It was my dad and the letter became the mentor. But very few heroes solve their problems on their own. So make sure you identify the turning point, the mentor or the moment, the mindset that helped you to change. And this is generally where your message gets delivered for the first time. And then show how you changed as a result of that message. The biggest mistake that speakers make at this point is they start telling the audience to change. They forget to show their own change. They forget to go, and then this shifted, and then I learned this, and then I tried this, and show the results before you invite the audience to change. They want to know that it worked for you. Okay. It's a very simple way to think about storytelling, but maybe if you reflect back on your lived experiences, you can break it into these 4 steps. Who was I? What were the things that escalated? Who helped me to change it? How did I change? That is a great framework for telling a story to reveal a message. All right. Okay, we're nearly there. 2 more steps, and then we're going to open up for lots of questions. So those are your first 2 steps. This is where a lot of your work goes in. And then you're going to start practicing, start delivering. And that is when the third step becomes important. And the F stands for fill in the gaps for your audience. You need to ask other people if your story is making sense. Did they need more details from you? Did they need less information? And so this is where your right mindset shows up. Are you able to make friends with feedback? Because it's not comfortable. I visited 42 clubs in 16 countries on 5 continents when I was rehearsing. I had more than 200 Toastmasters give me written and verbal feedback. And I had to manage my resistance to feedback and go, the speech is for them. If they're saying they need more details, I'm going to add it in. The speech is for them. If they're saying they don't need to hear that part of my story, I'm going to leave it out. So I truly believe this is where speeches are won and lost. Practice in places that are not your home country. Go to cultures that are different. See if they understand your accent, your examples. That's what really helped me. Going to places that weren't South Africa, it helped me write an international speech. And there was feedback from audiences that changed everything. I was using the word caravan, saying we lived in a caravan, and people in America were like, do you mean camper van? So I was like, okay, I'll say camper van. I was sharing that we'd left Zimbabwe after the Civil War, moved to South Africa, had to live in a camper van. And people were going, Zimbabwe? Was there a war there? What year was that? Leave it out. My dad lost his job. We lost our home. We had to live in a camper van. So you're only going to know what to leave out and what to put in if you ask the audience what the gaps are. And this is a really powerful way of strengthening your speech and also strengthening your spirit and your ability to deal with feedback. Okay, so that's the third step, critical for writing a winning speech. And I know this from people who come to me for coaching. They get very uncomfortable when I ask them to change things because we get so caught up in telling our story. Are you open for feedback? Because that will help you write a better speech. Okay, third step. The final step, the T of the gift, is that by the time your speech is coming to a close, you want to make sure that you're tying everything you've said together so that when you're getting to the conclusion part of your speech, where you're showing the change and you're inviting the audience to change, that piece needs to be a culmination of all the golden moments that have happened earlier in your speech. So for me, the best way to write a conclusion, and this is going to really add to your content mark for your speech development, is that when you're starting to write the ending of your speech, all you should be doing is looking back at what you've already written and starting to refer back to the moments that really mattered in your speech. And if you're clever, you want to refer all the way back to how you started your speech or even your title. I finished the last words of my speech was, if you pick up your pen and write a different story, trust me, it'll make for a great read. That was my title. So I tied all the way back. And when we do this well, the audience feels like you've finished your speech with a bow and said, here, this is for you. Now go do something with it. Of course, your delivery is going to tie it all together, your energy, all of that. But in the actual speech craft, look at the way you're writing your conclusion and make sure that all you're doing is going back to what you've said before and saying it in a fresh and different way. All right. So I'm going to show you those World Championship speeches we've been watching, what they do to tie their speech together and ultimately get commitment. So we're looking at commitment and how do they tie back all their little moments to make the audience feel like the speech is finished. Let's have a look at how they.
This is the ultimate question. Do you validate? But this is not what's important. What's important is, can you, can you, can you, You've been a great audience.
Is there something collapsed in your life? Your knowledge may be limited. Your skills may be rusty, but no doubt you'll be changed. when you reach out.
Words have power. Words are power. Words could be your power. You can change a life, inspire a nation, and make this world a beautiful place. Isn't that what we all wanted? Isn't that why we are all in this hall? Your mouth can spit venom, or it can mend a broken soul. Ladies and gentlemen, let that be our goal.
But the people in my life were able to reach into the trash can and make me whole again. If it was up to me, I would have never been able to do that. And this is why if you have great people in your life, no matter how broke, how lost, or how broken you become, they can piece you back together. Ladies and gentlemen, when I look at you, I see something in you. But I don't know what it is. Only.
You want to lead people to fix persistent problems. Someday, somewhere, somebody is going to have to try something new, and you as the leader have the opportunity to encourage that effort that might fail, for a chance to find the future. The victory is in the try. Be a Montgomery leader. Encourage risk. Try new things. The victory is not in the result, my friends. The victory is in the try. Contest chair.
Your life is a book. Then every day you get to decide, is your story being written for you or by you? When my dad reminded me that I was the author of my life changed. So if you're looking for a change, you want a new chapter, or you just fancy a miracle, pick up your pen and write a different story.
Right. Hopefully you're seeing how it all starts pulling together to ensure that by the time these speakers finish speaking, the audience feels I've received something of value and they have given them a gift. And if you haven't seen some of those speeches, I highly recommend going and watching the whole thing, because I know I've shown it to you in bits. But these are the 4 very simple steps that take a lot of effort, a lot of time, a lot of intention. But when you start approaching a speech with the mindset of making it a gift for your audience, it changes everything. And so that's your task as a speechwriter and as a storyteller. Get clear on the message, intentionally craft the story that reveals that message, and then make sure you fill in the gaps for your audience so that they are not lost at any moment in your speech, and tie it all together so that your conclusion gets the commitment that you need from them. And if you're doing all of that, I cannot guarantee you that you're going to win the contest, but I can guarantee you you're going to grow and you are going to be delivering speeches of value. And so I really hope that everyone here is going to be picking up their pens, writing those winning stories. And now I am over to you to help you with any gaps that you've still got, and I'm here to fill them in. So let's hear what it is that you need from me, and I will answer them all.
Wow. Wow. That was like attending a speech writing boot camp and motivation masterclass all rolled into one. Thank you, Verity. Pure brilliance. I can take liberty in saying that, Verity, this was indeed priceless.
Oh,
They
I love
say
that.
a story well told moves mountains, but a story well written can move hearts. That is my take from this wonderful presentation. Now, let us
I
start
love
with
that.
few questions from our curious minds in the audience tonight. We'll now pick few questions from the audience who had dropped in the chat box. Let me just open the chat box. Yes, here is a question from Toastmaster Yunus Hussain. His question is about commitment. My question is about commitment. It's a commitment or conclude your speech with some action for the audience.
So commitment is an action for the audience. You're only ever going to act if you commit to act. So I'm using the word commitment because it gives me my my speaker's triplet with the alliteration of curiosity, connection, commitment. But commitment is what makes people act. And if you are lecturing them and saying, you should do this, but they don't feel, yes, I'm going to, then we're missing that. So yes, the commitment is a call to action. And that could be another way for me to say it, but that's what we're looking for, commitment to your call to action. So I hope that answers that question. Yeah.
Yeah, hope Toastmaster Yunus, you're satisfied with the answer. If not, you can just raise your hand and thank you.
Thank you.
So next question is from Toastmaster Naved Hingora. In fact, this is a very valid question. Even I had doubts about this. Of late, we have seen the speeches are becoming more like a performance. So his question is being overly dramatic or exaggeration during the speech equivalent to a great speech? How to control it strategically during the speech?
Wow, what a good question. And I do think there is some confusion between dramatic and naturally energetic. So a lot of the reason I didn't compete for many years was I wasn't prepared to do what I thought was overly dramatic speaking because it didn't feel authentic to me. So it's different for each person. And what I see happening across the world in Toastmasters is people thinking I must be dramatic and then I'm going to get points. But if it's not authentic and if it's not the way you would tell that story, then don't do it. That's not to say that when people are really energized and they're like, I can't believe what I saw. And if they're feeling it, that energy is good. So it's a really hard one to get right. But if you are forcing the drama, if you're forcing the tears and trying to be emotional, the audience is going to pick up on that. Whereas you do get speakers who are naturally expressive, like Jocelyn Tyson. When I was in Bahamas watching her speak, she was literally swimming. She wasn't being dramatic. She was just in that moment reliving it. So I think we need to know the difference between reliving something with energy versus staging it to the point that it just looks weird. So I'm not sure if I'm answering the question, but I know when I'm coaching my clients, I'm always trying to bring it back to a natural way of expressing versus amateur dramatics.
Beautifully said.
Yeah.
Now, our next question has come from across the globe. A man, my dear friend, from way back in, I think he's in Jakarta, looks like. Ilios. His question is, do we reveal our message on the title or keep it secret until the time to be shared in the body of our speech?
Beautiful question. Please, if you have your message in the title or in your introduction, that is like handing someone a gift that you haven't wrapped. They can see what they're getting and they're kind of like, I don't know if I want this. So what you're wanting to do is your message is the gift. Your story, your structure is the wrapping. And they've got to enjoy uncovering the point. A really powerful world champion speech to go and watch to see just how powerfully that can be done is the 2019 world champion, Aaron Beverly. He only revealed his message in the last 45 seconds. Up until then, it was an incredible story about him being at an Indian wedding, fighting over a pair of shoes. But we were enjoying listening so much. We weren't even thinking about what the point was. But when the message came, the value to audience was huge. So the more of a moment that the audience gets when the message gets revealed, the more value you're giving. I hope that answers it for you, Elias.
Thank you. There's a question from Toastmaster Anand Natarajan. In fact, he loved your session. He says it's a truly insightful and brilliant session. His question
Thank
is,
you.
a question I have is, how do you make sure that something that is cathartic to you becomes a gift to others?
Oh, wow. So it was healing for you, but how do I make it a gift for others? What a great
Others.
question. So it is this is where working with a mentor or a coach can be really useful, because sometimes it's easy to go, well, this was really important to me. It's going to be important to everyone else. And it's not always. So it is to sit with that experience and go, what's the lesson here that if someone else knew this, it would save them that pain, or it would give them a shortcut to happiness or success, or whatever it was your story unfolded. And then think about what's the best way to get that across to them. Not totally related, but I'm going to quickly share it with you on the point of connection. You know, my story, if you watch my world championship speech, it really is about a miserable 40-year-old woman complaining that she's not happily married, you know, which wasn't necessarily very universally connecting to all the gentlemen in the audience. And I had to realize that early on, is that women were going, oh, what a lovely story. And oh, I also wish I could meet my prince. And a lot of the men in the meetings were going, really? Do I have to listen to the story? And I didn't see that. I was very close to my story. I thought it was valuable, but it wasn't valuable for everyone. And so my sister and I looked at my story, and she said, well, what if you told more of Dad's story so that men in the audience could connect to him? Because he lost his job at 60. He restarted his life. He had to reevaluate his dreams, and give that story so that there's value to the male audience, and your story is maybe valuable to the female audience. And again, that was a way of shifting of, yes, my story was cathartic to me, but if I just told it from my perspective, I was maybe missing the value for everyone. So again, feedback, fill in the gaps, ask people, and you will slowly strengthen it.
Lovely. Verity, it looks like there is someone who needs your coaching, and the question is regarding that by Toastmaster Uzma Sajjad. The question is, how do you conduct coaching sessions online?
So I do that 60-minute sessions online like this on Zoom. They are recorded with AI as well. So there's a transcript and the video of everything we work on. A lot of the initial coaching is on the speechcraft. So we share the screen and we edit, we change, we find the dialogue, the tension, the moments, we uncover the message. So it can be quite a powerful process. It could be quite challenging. And then we go from there, we start working on delivery. And with my clients, I also am available in between sessions. I send them videos or little voice notes to support them. And I've been very lucky, very lucky. I've done 4 of the contests since I won. And every year I've had someone place 3rd in the world. And this year, Maz Mahapia came 2nd. So every year I've had a client in the top 3. And yeah, I've had 5 clients in the finals in 4 years. So I'm happy, and it's a real privilege. And again, it's never guaranteed, but yeah, I generally have the people who win district with me 9 times out of 10 make the semis. So I think we're getting what the judges are looking for.
Good, great. And looks like now Uzma is eyeing for that podium finish. Uzma, you know where to contact now.
Yeah,
Wonderful.
fabulous.
Arun Kumar Venu has an interesting question, and he also partially answered it. In fact, he asks, do we really need to write and memorize the entire speech? If we do that, won't it feel less genuine and heartfelt? So that is the question.
Lovely question. So here's the thing. This is a very technical speech contest, and there's definitely someone that could get up there and wing it for 7 minutes, not fully rehearsed, and they might win. I will never say that's not possible, but I researched all the other world champions and finalists after I won. And on average, everyone who made the finals or won had at least 30 to 40 versions of their speech written and rewritten. They'd all visited an average of 40 clubs to practice. Bar one person who hadn't made the top 3, everyone had asked for feedback. and they were working an average of 3 to 4 hours a day on their speech for the last 3 months. I was completely average. When I got those results, I was like, well, that's what I did. I wasn't special. I wasn't different. That's just how hard people work to get to the finals. To speak to, won't it sound rehearsed and boring? Absolutely. You're going to get tired of your own speech. And so my suggestion always with my clients and what I do for myself is I would rehearse it in different ways. So I would I don't know why I like American accents, but I was like, I'm just going to do my whole speech like this. And I'm going to be like over the top. And I'm just going to do all my words like a totally different character. And then I would do all the script as a professor. And I would do it in a very boring way. And I would take 12 minutes. But what I was doing was internalizing the structure, but don't always rehearse it in the same way. Because sometimes, I know people are laughing at me, sometimes those silly ways of rehearsing actually uncovered humor, it uncovered new timing. So I think why the speech gets tired if you're rehearsing it perfectly every time is you also maybe rehearsing parts that aren't working. So mix it up, but definitely it is 90% written and rehearsed. And then there's things that happen in the moment. But last year I had a client knocked out in the finals because they got carried away in the moment. And they had a very rehearsed, beautiful speech, but the audience was laughing so much, they got caught up in that. And my heart broke watching online, seeing the timer go. So that's why in this contest, you can't afford to go impromptu. It's too dangerous.
Wow. Verity, you did mention about humor, and that has snowballed into a question now. Anuradha Sharma has asked a question: how much humor can I incorporate to give the message?
There's no rule. And I can tell you right now in this contest, humor does help. The heavy speeches tend to not go the distance. So I always say, can you talk about heavy in a light way? I mean, if you watch my semifinals and my final speech, they're both about very heavy moments. But I got to a point where I could speak about them with lightness and humor. So if the humor is natural to you, if it's your authentic way of saying it, then don't discount humor. Humor goes a long way, and it does help. It helps to lighten heavy if there are heavy aspects to your speech. But it's not a humorous speech contest. So it's just getting that balance of I'm actually engaging with the audience, having this powerful conversation, and there's humor and heart in what you're doing.
Thank you. In fact, that has answered another question, which was also on the similar topic by Sanjay Visa. His question was similar. My question to you is, in your presentation, you were silent on use of humor. Probably you answered that very well. There's a tricky question now from one of my very close friends, Jannadas Bolaki. He has asked a fantastic question. He says, do you connect with audience or with the judges? To whom should you address?
I love that. They're the same person. This is the bottom line. Your audience is made up of hearts. And I will give you the advice that Cyril Jr. Dim has said to a few people, and I absolutely love this. He says, you want to be so good on stage that the judges forget to look at their ballot while you're speaking, because then they're audience and they're not judges. So that's your job. And I've had that happen once when I was judging a district contest. This chap got on stage, and he just, from the moment he got on stage, I forgot that I was a judge. So when I finished, I was like, well, I almost have to give him 100% because it was that engaging. So it's not about the judges. It's about, if you can open people's hearts, you're probably going to change their minds around the way they score you if they are a judge. But don't make it about the contest. Make it about the value of the speech for everyone. I never thought about the judges when I was speaking because I never knew who they were, but I was like, is this adding value? Will this speech make a difference for someone? Am I making the most of the 7 minutes of attention they're giving me? And that for me was a good way to come at it, rather than, you need to know what the judges are looking for, but then just bring you and be so good they forget to look at the ballot.
Wonderful. Verity, your presentation was so beautiful. It was a real gift to all of us. In fact, you'll be surprised. There is a Gavalier in the audience, Hargun Kaur, and there's a question from him. how can I find the perfect title or know what to write about for my speech?
Oh, what a lovely question. So often when people are a bit younger, they'll say to me, oh, I don't have stories yet, but we all have stories. So it's to look back over your lived experience and go, what were the moments that have shaped you? What were the people who have stretched you or hurt you or frustrated you? What were the places you've been to that taught you something or made you think differently? And it's often those little stories that make for a great speech. I've said this all over the world, and I'm going to say it again. I really believe someone could win the World Championship of Public Speaking telling the story of how they learned to boil an egg. It's how you tell the story. Is the audience in the setting with you? Are they watching the boiling water, worried about the stove, slipping on the floor? Whatever the story is, it doesn't have to be, and this is what Mark Brown says, your story doesn't have to be sensational. It just needs to be sincere. So look at the things, funny moments, frustrating moments, failure moments, things that have really like shifted the way you think, and go, is there a story here I can share? And trust the value of your lived experience. It doesn't have to be life-changing, heartbreaking stuff, but can you tell it in a way that is engaging and valuable for the audience?
Wow. In fact, Verity, there is a contest season on in our districts and divisions and areas. People are going ahead with, they are starting with tall tale contest. And there is a Toastmaster who would like to have some tall tale tips from you. So how do we prepare?
I'm not
whether we have
brilliant.
to use
I'm
the
not
same
brilliant
gift?
at tall tales. I've never done tall tales, and I'm always amazed at the creativity. And I wouldn't say I'm your girl to ask about tall tales. I am sorry.
Okay. So there's one question from Mohsin Shukaili. Now, since you have done it all, seen it all, achieved it all, where does Verity go from here? How do you keep evolving as a speaker after reaching the acme, the nadir, the zenith?
Sure. So there's two sides to that. As a speaker, I find I've had to take the pressure off, because I'll never do another speech that is so over prepared ever again. I've had to give myself permission to show up and talk from the heart and trust that I have the stories and the content. Everything I do is planned, but it's not going to be world championship level of delivery. And that's been quite liberating, because I get to do sessions like this and connect, and that for me is incredibly fulfilling. But the thing for me that was most unexpected about winning was the opportunity to coach other people that are competing. I had no idea that was something that would come out of it, and I had no idea how much I would enjoy it and how fulfilling I would find it. So for me, it's always the joy of going, who are we going to get to the semifinals this year? Are they going to make the finals? And I sit biting my nails, waiting for them, breathing with them, praying with them. And that's for me what I'm enjoying focusing on. And then when I get to visit districts in person, that's the highlight of this title, is getting to meet the Toastmasters world. It is such a gift.
Wow. Uzma Sajjad has asked, are there any suggestions on improving your voice pitch? Sometimes we don't use our natural voice. So anything on that?
So the one thing I would say with voice is, sometimes I say to my clients who struggle with voice projection, or they struggle to bring energy, I actually ask them to go find a children's book and read it like you're reading to a child, with the same energy and enthusiasm, and building the tension and pauses, and try that as a way to find modulation in your voice. So away from your speech, just find that playfulness in our voices. But it's also the way your speech is written. So this is maybe a very important point for everyone. The way you write is not the way you speak. And so if you find after you've written a speech and you're now rehearsing and delivering it and it sounds forced or it's not flowing, it's because you haven't written it in your spoken voice. So I always say to my clients, write your speech, then stand up and have it to one side, but start speaking and find your spoken way of saying it and then rewrite it in that voice. And that might also help with the way you are using your voice. If you've got long sentences, complicated words, it might be disconnecting the voice a little bit.
Thank you. And Verity, one question from my side. You did mention about sticky messages. I love that
Yes.
phrase. But then
Sticky
how do
statements.
sticky statements, how do I make sure that it is really a sticky statement or it is not just a post-it, it will fall off after the speech itself? So how do I make sure that?
Oh, so it really, I mean, it depends. And this is where you often will spend most of your work writing and rewriting. And it's going, is this being said in a way that's going to give someone an aha moment? So, you know, a simple statement would be kind. Like there's a simple message. But if you look at Maz Mahathir's speech, it was like, be a ripple, be a raindrop. He changed it from just being kind. We worked on the idea of that kindness ripples, and it starts with that one act. So he made it stickier by including an analogy. But it is a process, and this is where you test it on audiences. What message stood out for you? What do you remember? And until they all start writing you the same message back, you know it's not sticky enough.
Wonderful. So can I request the audience, please open up, show your faces, and give a thunderous round of applause. District 105 special. Come on.
Thank you.
So,
wow, thank you so much.
Wonderful. Thank you, Verity, for showing us that championship speeches aren't born overnight. They are built through courage, creativity, and countless rewrites, what you just mentioned just now. Please accept a small digital citation from our district as a token of gratitude and appreciation. I request our PQD to share it.
Oh, thank you. Oh, lovely. Thank you so much.
Thank you. PQD, you have something to say quickly? A table topic for you?
Oh. And then I have a request.
Okay.
Go ahead, Verity. Your request is
Well,
always
I was just wondering if I could quickly show everyone a little taste of how my Conquering Contests course works, because I know not everyone can afford coaching programs. And so what I will say to you, I'm going to show it to you. And if it's something that resonates, I'm very happy with clubs buying one and sharing the login with their members. I'd love it if each club bought their own one, but as a way to make it accessible to your members. So I'll just quickly show you how it works. And then we can go from there. Thank you so much for indulging me. Thank you.
Pick up your pen and write a different story.
So that just gives you a little sense of how it works. And I'd love it as a way to keep supporting more and more Toastmasters to really understand how to craft these winning speeches so that you can take it from your district beyond. And who knows, maybe our next world champion is from 105. Thank you so much, all. It's been such a joy being with all of you.
Thank you, Verity. I think I would be failing my duty if I don't recognize this person, because when we started the Toastmaster year, I reached out to this individual and said to him that we have to do something differently. So then he sent me a 4 to 5 page document that what we can do for the contest. And that is how he coined this session as Tête-à-Tête, a champion. So this is the series number 1, and is none other than our ever bubbling, charismatic moderator, distinguished Toastmaster Arish Bilgi. Arish, please accept this small digital certificate from District 105, and thank you for being a wonderful host, bringing the guests, bringing the members, and also bringing liveliness to the meeting. Thank you, distinguished Toastmaster Arish Bilgi.
Thank you, PQD. And Verity, I just wanted to add, our PQD has already shared all the links regarding your social sites, everything in our chat box, and it will be shared to all Toastmasters in the district. I would also like to give a big shout out for our timer for keeping us on track, and our Zoom master for ensuring that our virtual stage was never mute, because we are just out of practice nowadays. And of course, heartfelt gratitude to every participant who came here, brought their presence, curiosity, and passion tonight. As we wrap up, remember, writing a winning speech isn't about impressing others. My take is it's about expressing yourself better than before. And tonight we have learned it from none other than but from the finest on how to turn that intent into impact. Now, until we meet again for our next TLI session, keep writing, keep speaking, and most importantly, keep inspiring. Thank you, everyone. This is DTM Harish Bilgi signing off with a bow and a smile, ending right on dot without extending the time. Thank you all.